Welcome. I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you would do me a favor, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm definitely trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, man. And anything would help. I definitely appreciate it. Go to the YouTube. The link is in the description. If you click on the link, it goes it allows you pretty much to subscribe, man. Just do it for the kid. But so the biggest news last week was, of course, Julio Jones getting traded. And we knew it was coming. We heard rumblings of Julio Jones going to get traded. He went on, Shannon Sharp called him an undisputed, and he's pretty much saying he was out of there. But this has been going on for a couple years now. Kind of ever since really the Super Bowl collapse of the Atlanta Falcons. The problem with the Atlanta Falcons was most of their money was going to Matt Ryan. In fact, pretty much all of their money was going to Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. And when you're a team that struggles mightily with the run, that struggles mightily with the offensive line, that struggles mightily with the defense, your two best player or your two most expensive players can't be two players that kind of dependent on others. You know what I mean? And while there's no question that Julio Jones is a top receiver in the game, the last 2 years he's been kind of nicked with injuries. Now, there's a narrative going on that says that, or that's saying that Julio Jones is an injury-prone player, which is not the case. The last 2 years, like I said, he has been dealing with some nicks and some injuries, but if you look at the totality of his career, he hasn't been injury-prone at all. He's actually been one of the most reliable wide receivers and most available wide receivers. So, yeah, the whole injury-prone thing, I don't see it. But we knew, the Atlanta Falcons, we knew they were going to trade Julio Jones. And the question was, who was he going to trade to? We knew Julio Jones was saying that he wanted to go to a big arm quarterback. He wanted to go to a win now situation. The Patriots were through, their name was out there. The Ravens were named out there. Green Bay Packers were out there. But he ultimately ended up with Tennessee. Now, first and foremost, I'm going to give a couple winners and losers of this trade. First and foremost, a huge winner is Tennessee. You pair him up with A.J. Brown, who is a great young wide receiver. You pair him up with Derrick Henry, who's the most physically imposing running back in the game, and Ryan Tannehill. He pretty much got what he asked for. He does have a big arm quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, and he has the offense is going to be okay. I say the Tennessee Titans was a winner because, you get Julio Jones. I can also see them being kind of a loser because while you have Julio Jones, they haven't addressed their biggest problem, which is their defense. They can't really stop anybody. That's one reason why they lost in the playoffs last year against the Ravens. While they were doing what they were supposed to do on offense until like the fourth quarter, their defense was struggling. And you get Julio and you pair him up with A.J. Brown, and you can arguably have a top wide receiver duo in the league. You still can't stop anybody. And also, I'll say a loser in this is Atlanta, because all we heard was they're going to try to get a first rounder. And the fact that you trade him for a second rounder and maybe like a third rounder in the next draft, like you would think, especially when you see what Orlando Brown went for, was the offensive lineman, especially when you see what some of the wide receivers that were traded went for, and he only gets a second round pick. And Julio Jones, when healthy, there's really no, I'm not going to say, you can debate, but there's really no debate. Julio Jones is the best wide receiver in the league when healthy. So to get him for only a second rounder, especially when you were saying that you're looking for, at minimum, just a first rounder, and you don't even get that. And reports are coming out saying that the first rounder wasn't even offered. So I just think now we do know that Julio Jones is in the latter half of his career, but that doesn't negate from the fact that he's still a premier wide receiver. And it kind of goes back to what I just said. It, the question now is, are they a top duo as far as AJ Brown and Julio Jones? Are they a top duo in the league as far as wide receivers? You have Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry. You have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. You have Tyreek Hill, and I'm gonna put Travis Kelce because he's pretty much a wide receiver. You have a lot of dual threats or a lot of duos that are great, but AJ Brown and Julio is definitely up there. So that's why I would say Tennessee, like I said, is a winner. A loser in this you have to look at the Patriots. You have to look at the Green Bay Packers. You have to look at the Ravens, because let's start with the Patriots. The biggest problem with the Patriots, and we've seen, is the Patriots have a tough time evaluating wide receiver talent. They have a tough time evaluating wide receiver talent in the draft and in free agency. When you look at what Julio Jones went for, and then you look at the Patriots went for a lot more, like Mohamed Sanu, the Patriots traded for Mohamed Sanu, and he offered a lot more than Julio Jones. And there's nobody on this earth that should think that Mohamed Sanu is better than Julio Jones. And when the report come out says that they as far as the Patriots and the Seahawks didn't want to pay the price that Julio Jones is, I understand the Seahawks. I understand the Seahawks maybe not wanting to pay it. I mean, you have Tyler Lockett, you have DK Metcalf, and your offensive line is still god awful. Your defense still needs work. Not to mention, like I said, you need to figure out how you're going to extend Jamal Adams after giving up all that you gave up for him. So I understand the Seattle. But for the Patriots, when you go get Hunter Henry, you go get John Doe Smith, you go get Nelson Aguilar, like you do all these moves in the offseason, and you still kind of don't have that number one receiver. Not to mention the fact that Cam Newton and Julio Jones already have a past relationship. They work out with each other sometimes in the offseason. It's like, why would you not? I understand, like, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense because you have Cam Newton. You have Cam Newton. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for Green Bay because you already know the rocky situation that you have right now with Aaron Rodgers. And we'll talk about that a little later. But you already know the rocky situation you have with Aaron Rodgers. Why would you not get him arguably the top 2 wide receivers in the league? Because last year, an argument can be made that Devontae Adams was a top wide receiver. And now you have Julio Jones like that. That is one thing that we've said time to time, especially about the Green Bay Packers, is even if you take Devontae Adams out, yeah, you have Valdez-Scantling, yeah, you have Lazard, but those aren't really, those are threes. Those aren't bona fide twos. The only reason why they're twos is because Aaron Rodgers makes them twos. Like if they were on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if they were on the Saints, they wouldn't be twos. But because you have Aaron Rodgers making them two, imagine if you have on one side Julio Jones and the other side Devontae Adams. You're already messing, like, it just doesn't make sense, man. You have a top tier wide, and it's very rare that a top tier wide receiver, especially a wide receiver of this magnitude, is available, and you don't get it. They didn't get Odell Beckham Jr. as far as the Patriots, as far as Green Bay. They didn't get Odell Beckham Jr. when he was available. They didn't get Stephon Diggs when he was available, and they didn't get Julio Jones, who is arguably the best wide receiver in the game. Hell, they didn't even get Devontae Adams. I mean, not Devontae Adams. They didn't even get DeAndre Hopkins when he was traded from Houston to Arizona. So it's like, this is a passing league at this point. Yes, I know you still have the Derrick Henrys, you still have the Aaron Joneses, you still have the Delvin Cooks, but this is a passing league. And when you look, and I'm solely talking on the Patriots right now. When you look last season and your biggest problem was the wide receivers couldn't create separation, and you knew you didn't have a number one wide receiver. Like, I just don't. You look at Julio Jones and you look at Nelson Aguilar. You cannot tell me that both of them are number ones. Like, there's no way you can tell me that. And it's like, I just feel you dropped the ball, man. I just feel, like I said, the Patriots dropped the ball. I feel the Green Bay dropped the ball. I feel a lot of teams that didn't want to pay Julio Jones' salary dropped the ball, especially when your biggest problem is wide receiver. Like, and on top of that, on top of everything, I understand that you got the tight end situation straight for Cam Newton, but wouldn't you want a top tier quarterback for Cam Newton? And imagine if Cam Newton gets hurt, Lord forbid. Imagine if Cam Newton gets hurt, or you bench Cam Newton because he's just not good. Then you bring Adam Jones or Matt Jones. Don't you want Matt Jones to have a reliable number one receiver? And what better reliable number one receiver than Julio Jones? So, congratulations to Julio Jones. I know the report came out saying he's going to be wearing number 2. Congrats to him. Congrats to the Tennessee Titans. I'll say this. Getting Julio makes them better, of course. Now you can't double team AJ Brown. You're gonna have to single coverage AJ. You're gonna have to single coverage Julio, and I don't know how you're gonna do that. And then that also frees up the box and opens up the box a little bit for Derrick Henry. So play option, run pass option is going to be crazy. I don't know how it's going to be tough, but I think this move most definitely makes Tennessee better. Do I think that they're the best in their division? I mean, yeah, I think so, but I don't know if this makes them Super Bowl content. I don't think this move makes them Super Bowl contenders. Because I don't see them better than the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't see them better. You can kind of argue, are they better than the Colts, which is in the same division? Are they kind of better than the Colts? But we do have to see what happens with Carson Wentz. I don't really see them better than the Ravens right now. I don't see them better than what else in that? It's really depending on Baker Mayfield. But if you look at just both rosters, I don't see them better than the Browns. So I do think that we need to wait and see. I don't think that this makes them Super Bowl contenders, but it definitely makes them better. So shouts out to Julio Jones and shouts out to Tennessee for getting the deal done. So let's move on. So the NBA playoffs is of course going on right now, and we're in the second round. Now I gave my second round predictions last episode. What I wanted to do is I wanted to go over who's the 10 best players left in the playoffs. Now, of course, there's going to be no Stephs, there's going to be no Dames, no Lukas, no Bronze, because they're not in the playoffs anymore. I just wanted to do who are the top 10 players left in the playoffs. And I'm going to start with number 10, which is Trae Young. Take Trae Young off of the Atlanta Hawks. And who's going to score? Yes, you have Bogdanovich. Yes, you have that's about it. Like, they don't really have a second scorer. I think their second best player is probably Clint Capella, but he needs someone to give him the ball. Maybe you can say John Collins, but he's not a reliable. Like, he's not a person that can really put the ball on the ground. So it's really the fact that the Atlanta Hawks are in the second round is a testament to how good Trae Young has been this playoffs. And Trae Young, while he still takes some, we know he's a deep threat. We know that he can shoot the ball from incredible lengths and is an incredible shooter. Sometimes he shoots the deep ball a little too much, but Trae Young has been incredible, and Trae Young is the main reason why the Atlanta Hawks right now is in the second round going against the Philadelphia 76ers. So, number 10, I have Trae Young. Number 9, I have Donovan Mitchell. If you really look at all the teams remaining, the deepest team is the Utah Jazz. They are good at damn near every position. But Donovan Mitchell is the head of that snake. And as we saw with game 1 against Memphis, yeah, you can have Mike Conley, who's out actually right now. You can have Mike Conley. You can have Rudy Gobert. You can have all the players that you had, the Jordan Clarksons who won Sixth Man of the Year. But it doesn't matter if you don't have the head of that snake, which is Donovan Mitchell. And Donovan Mitchell has been incredible since coming back from injury. And with Donovan Mitchell, the Utah Jazz have a really good shot of winning it all. They have a really good shot of going to the NBA Finals. They have a really good shot of winning the NBA Finals. Without Donovan Mitchell, I don't give them a shot. I don't think they have that. That is a team that, while they're deep in a lot of positions, they need Donovan Mitchell, and they need the head of that snake to go anywhere. And the head of that snake is Donovan Mitchell. So I have Donovan Mitchell at 9. Number 8, I have Kyrie. We know how good Brooklyn has been, and a lot of that is because of Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, now, when we talk about Kyrie, we know about the handles. He arguably has the best handle in NBA history. We know about his below the rim ability to finish and his acrobatic moves. But one of the most underrated stats that he owns is he's been a very reliable 3-point shooter this entire year. Like we talked about earlier, or when the season ended, that he was on the 50-40-90 club, and the fact that you shoot 40% or higher from 3-point line is good. And he's been incredible. He was very important in the first round against Boston, and he's been very important in the second round against the Bucks. So while Kyrie Irving is not the best player and has not been the best player on that team, he has been very important. So I have Kyrie at number 8. Number 7, I have CP3. I mean, it's tough, man. The MVP just came out, and we'll talk about it in a second. But the fact that it's the fact that Chris Paul is fighting for votes is kind of laughable for me, seeing as though you look at the Suns before Chris Paul. Now, yes, at the end of the season last year and in the bubble, they had a surge, and of course they won 8 straight. They just didn't make the playoffs. But this was a team that was leaderless. Devin Booker's an incredible player, but I don't know if he's that much of a leader because he's still young. Their leader was their coach, and wow, that can be good. Sometimes, usually, that's not a recipe for success. And with CP3, the Phoenix Suns, if you look at the Phoenix Suns and look how they've been playing in the first round against the Lakers, knocking off LeBron and AD. Look, if you see what they look like the second round, like they look like they could win it all. The only problem and the only question that we have with the Phoenix Suns is their age. They are a deep team. They're not really experienced team, but they have Chris Paul who's leading the way. They have Devin Booker. They have all the recipes of a championship team. The only thing that they do not have is they're not an experienced team. This is the first time most of the team is in the playoffs. And Chris Paul has been. You look at it. The games that Chris Paul has not played good, they've lost. The games that Chris Paul has played well, they've won. Chris Paul has been incredible, and if without Chris Paul, I'll say this. Without Chris Paul, I don't think the Phoenix Suns would be in the playoffs. And without Chris Paul, I don't think the Phoenix Suns, now that they are in the playoffs, I don't think that they even make it out of round 1. And with Chris Paul, they have a shot of winning the whole thing, the NBA Finals. So, I have Chris Paul at 7. At 6, I have Giannis. We'll talk about Giannis a little bit later, but Giannis is still a two-time MVP, defensive player of the year. Giannis he's still what the cog that makes the Bucks turn. I know you have Drew Holiday, I know you have Brook Lopez, I know you have PJ Tucker, but the Bucks are absolutely nothing without Giannis. Now I know it's kind of hard to say after we saw what happened the first 2 games in the second round, but Giannis is still an incredible player, and That's why I can't really put him anywhere. Like I understand that especially the second game. The first game he played good, but the second game I can't. I know they haven't played up to standard. They've been kind of getting blown out by Brooklyn, but you can't make a top 10 list about players remaining and not put a 2-time champion in. It just doesn't sit right with me. So I have Giannis at 6. At 5, I have Joel Embiid. The only problem with Joel Embiid, and the only reason why I have him at 5th and not higher, is because of his health. We need to see when he's on the floor, he has been a dominant force. In fact, this isn't just with the playoffs. This goes back to the regular season. I solely believe if Joel Embiid never got hurt in the regular season, I think that he would have won the MVP. And I think that Philly would be in a better spot. Now, I understand they got the number 1 overall seed, but I would think they'd be in a better spot than they are. Now, they are in the second round, and a lot of that is because of the play of Joel Embiid. I know he missed the last 2 games or 1.5 games against the 76ers. Against the Wizards the first round, but Joel Embiid has been good. Joel Embiid has been incredible, and Joel Embiid is putting up numbers that we haven't seen since Shaq. That is with him on the floor. Now, of course, he needs to stay on the floor, but when he's on the floor, he's a top 5 player in my opinion. So that's why I have Joel Embiid at 5th. Joel Embiid at 5th. At 4, I have James Harden. Now, again, James Harden's injured right now with a hamstring. We'll see if he plays. But on the floor, James Harden is... I'm not saying he's the best player for the Brooklyn Nets. I'm not saying that at all. But he is probably the most important. Now, I understand what they're doing against the Bucks right now, but do not think the Brooklyn Nets can win a championship without James Harden. Even if they have Kyrie, even if they have KD, even if they have Blake Griffin playing like he's playing now. If they do not have James Harden, they will not win a championship. James Harden, he dictates tempo. James Harden's able to get other players involved with his assists. James Harden can drop 30 on you with 10 rebounds and 15 assists. James Harden is another enigma in the league. I know I talked about Russell Westbrook on. You know what it is? James Harden and Russell Westbrook, they're not the same, but they're the same. As far as they dominate the game the exact same way, just in different realms. And I'll say it like this. Russell Westbrook dominates the game with his ferocity. He dominates the game with his athleticism. He's a triple-double king. He's able to get to the rim effortlessly a lot. That's just how he dominates. James Harden, he also is a walking triple-double. However, he doesn't really beat you with athleticism, but he beats you with his handles. He beats you with his crossover. He's able to. His step back is freaking lethal. Like you can't. If his step back's on, it's over. There's nothing that can be done. And they're both games that you can't describe, and I don't think we'll see another Russell Westbrook, and I don't think we'll see another James Harden. That's how good James Harden is. And like I said, you can have KD, you can have Kyrie, you can have Blake Griffin. They're not going to win a championship if James Harden's not healthy. So I have James Harden at number 4. At number 3, I have Nikola Jokic. First and foremost, shouts out to Nikola Jokic for winning MVP. It was we kind of knew where it was going. We knew who was going to win MVP at this, and that doesn't take away from the fact that Nikola Jokic deserved MVP this year. He was the only player only finalist that had that played every game this season, and he's been the sole reason. I counted them out. Let me say, you can go back. I counted them out. I didn't think that the Nuggets were going to win in round 1 against Dame and the Portland Trailblazers because I thought that they would miss Jamal Murray. What I didn't, and I knew that they had Nikola Jokic, but I just thought that while Nikola Jokic can't guard Damian Lillard and CJ, I thought that was just going to be too much for Austin Rivers or in Campazzo. But Nikola Jokic was incredible then, and I understand, you know, what happened or what's happening in the second round, but he's been incredible. He's been incredible this entire season, and that's only spilled over to the postseason. And again, shouts out to Nikola Jokic for winning the MVP. Well deserved. I think he's one of a few players to ever win that's a foreign player. I know Steve Nash because he's from Canada. I know Dirk Nowitzki, and I think Nikola Jokic. I think those those are the ones I can remember. So if I'm wrong, of course, I'm sure people will leave it in the comments. But I think those are the only few players that are foreign players that won the MVP. So, oh, and Giannis. And Giannis on it. Giannis won Greece. So those I really can only think of Hakeem Olajuwon won MVP, I think. I'm not about to go through all of them. I'm just gonna say congratulations to Nikola Jokic, and I have Nikola Jokic third in the MVP. Third in my best players remaining in the playoffs. Number 2, I have Kawhi. Man, look. Kawhi is the sole reason why Luka Doncic is not is not still playing. Kawhi, man, look. Kawhi, it's hard to describe Kawhi because we don't know much about Kawhi except for the fact that Kawhi is, you know what he is? Kawhi is the sole difference or the sole opposite of Paul George. Now, and this is no shot to Paul George, but if we look at the stats and we look at what we've seen in recent years, it's true. Kawhi Leonard turns up in the playoffs. Kawhi Leonard doesn't really take the regular season that seriously. Of course, you have low management. You have him missing games. You have him just taking plays. It's the regular season. However, when the playoffs comes, he turns into a different animal. He turns into one of the best players in the league. And now, of course, we know he's one of the best players in the league, but he just turns his game up another notch. Paul George, on the other hand, Paul George really he is incredible in the regular season. He's a top 10 player, in my opinion, in the regular season. But his game kind of, it kind of goes down in the postseason. We know about what happened in the bubble. We know about some of his past postseason moments. But Kawhi Leonard has been incredible. Kawhi Leonard is, like I said, one of the sole reasons because the Clippers should have lost first round against the Dallas Mavericks. It went 7 games, and Luka was going crazy. And that was the first series, I think, in NBA history where the first 6 games the road team won. So it was, it was incredible, man. And they can thank Kawhi Leonard for. So there's no way that you can look at what Kawhi Leonard did and not think, he is one of the top 5 or top 3 players left in these playoffs. So I have Kawhi Leonard at number 2. Number 1, it shouldn't be a question. KD is on another level, man. What KD is doing, and the fact that he's doing this 2 years removed after Achilles rupture. Now, when you look at the history of Achilles ruptures and people recovering, there's not really too many stories of players coming back either the same or better. I think the only player that you can really look at is Dominique Wilkins, and he was a freak athlete. Man, KD is on another level, bro. KD is there. This is why there's always a question year after year. Now, I'm not saying he is. Now, I don't want to hear people say that, but there's always a question: Is KD the best player in the world? Because of stuff like this. KD, he destroyed. Now, I understand Jason Tatum gave him 50, but it was one of the biggest reasons why they destroyed Boston. And what he's doing the first two games against the Bucks, KD, and when you look at the matchup between KD and Giannis, it looks night and day. And the crazy thing is, the matchup is a 2-time MVP and a defensive player of the year going up against regular season MVP, 2-time champion, 2-time finals MVP. Like, these are accomplished players. And KD looks like the best player on the floor, and it doesn't even look close. So it would behoove me to not put KD at number 1, man. KD has been that good, and KD when you look at all the stars, like I said, you look at a Giannis, you look at CP3, you look at James Harden, you look at Kyrie, you look at Jokic, you look at Donovan Mitchell. Hell, people that's not even on this list. Look at a Ben Simmons. Look at a Paul George. Look at a Rudy Gobert. KD has looked even with okay. So and here's the thing. Imagine it, even if AD was still in the playoffs, even if LeBron James was still in the playoffs, the only players that I can say would be an argument if they continued to play how they were playing before they left was Luka, and while he didn't make the playoffs, was Curry. They're the only players to me that are playing better or playing on the same level that KD is playing right now. So I have to put KD at number one. KD has just been that freaking good. So that's my list. Again, Trae Young, number 10, Donovan Mitchell, Kyrie, CP3, Giannis, Embiid, Harden, Jokic, Kawhi Leonard, and KD. Those are my top 10 players in the playoffs, remaining in the playoffs. So moving forward, we talked a lot about Giannis, and I put Giannis at 6th, and of course, he's going against KD, who I put number 1, and the Bucks have got destroyed the first 2 games. And we talk about legacies a lot. I heard a lot of people going at what's his name, LeBron James, saying that his legacy is tarnished because he finally lost in the first round, even though he's 14-1 at this point. But he finally lost. People talk about a lot. Legacies are always talked about, and if we want to talk about legacies, we have to start really looking at Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis is an incredible player. Don't get me wrong. He's arguably one of the most unstoppable players going north and south, or east and west. Like he is incredible. Giannis is. We've never seen a player like Giannis before. The problem is with Giannis is, I'm not gonna call him a one-trick pony because he's not, but he continues to lose the same way. When you look at it in the playoffs, the last few years, while he was injured, he did get injured the latter half of the bubble, but the Heat beat him in the bubble by walling up, not letting them, get to the hole, and that was effective and making other people beat them. When you look against Toronto with Kawhi Leonard, walling up, putting Kawhi Leonard on him, not letting or making other people win. When you look at how Philly, yes, you're a great player, I get that, but when you start losing the same way, then you have to start really thinking about legacy. The reason why we don't talk about Damian Lillard, his legacy, is because of how he performs. And even though they've lost they've lost in the first round 4 of the last 5 years, every year Damian Lillard has shown out. Like he just had a 55-point game and they lost. Like Damian Lillard has been incredible. It's just the people around him have not. Giannis, yes, you lose the same way, and yes, he's had some really good games, but man, it's we talk about LeBron James' legacy, we talk about Anthony Davis' legacy, we talk about Kawhi Leonard's legacy. We really need to start thinking, how are we going to look at Giannis if he doesn't? It's one thing to lose to the Brooklyn Nets. I understand, again, KD, Kyrie, James Harden when he comes back. Blake Griffin is playing like the Blake Griffin of old. It's a tall task for anybody to beat that team. But to lose the way that they're losing, that's different. Giannis, I understand the first game, Giannis I think had like 34 or something. But the second game he disappeared, and he actually disappeared the second half of the first game. So it's like, that's just, especially when you're going up against a person that should be, a lot of people deem it in the same class. Like, like Kawhi Leonard. Okay, so Kawhi Leonard turned up against Luka because a lot of people consider them, okay, are they in the same class? Uh, Steph Curry turns up against Damian Lillard and vice versa, because they consider them in the same class. A lot of people consider not Luka, Giannis in the same class as KD. Hell, a lot of people argue that Giannis is better than KD. And it's like, okay, so you got the matchup. You're doing what you got to do. This is the time to do it. This is the time. And it's like the fact that it hasn't happened, it's just, or the fact that he's losing the way he's losing. I mean, they were damn near down 50 last game. So, and I understand Dame hasn't made it to the finals yet. I understand James Harden hasn't made it back to the finals since he was with OKC. I understand that some of the top players haven't made it to the finals, but when you're on a team like the Bucks that a lot of people year after year pick them to at least make it to the finals, and you get bounced out first, second round, it's just, you really have to, and losing the same way you lose, you really have to start looking at, okay, is Giannis, I think his legacy is going to start to get, I'm not going to say tarnished, but I think you're really going to start to take a hard look at, all right, is this a top, let me see this. How are we really viewing Giannis? And has Giannis hit his ceiling? I know it's hard to say from a player that and when you look at Giannis when he came into the league to now, I know it's crazy to say has he reached his peak, but one thing that has not really improved is his jump shot, and that's the one thing that we've said needs to continue to improve, and it really hasn't the last 2-3 years. So if he again, I understand if you don't win, it's just a series. It's Brooklyn, and you're going against three of the most gifted offensive players ever. But if you lose the way that you lost game 2, the remainder of the series, you really have to start looking at, all right, is Giannis really who we think he is? So, yeah, man. And on the flip side of Giannis, we'll go to Luka. And the real question is, a lot of people are asking, and all right, so there's really, to me, there shouldn't be an argument. I think Luka is a top 10 player right now in the league. From what he's doing in the regular season to what he's doing, what we just saw him do against the Clippers, I think he's there should be no question, is he a top 10 player. The real question is he a top 5 player? And I don't know. I don't know. It's just when you look at Luka, he's only 22, I think, doing things that we haven't seen. Like Luka, his offensive ability is crazy, man. Now, he doesn't play a lick of defense, but a lot of the younger players don't play defense. Like John Moran doesn't play defense. Zion don't play no type of defense. All the real defensive players play defense, like Ben Simmons and Maurice Theinbull. But all the supers, like Trae Young, don't play no defense. Like I said, so Lucas don't play defense. But he is so incredible offensively, and the fact that he's 22, I think his third year in the league, and he's already having an argument. Is he a top 5 player? To me, is a success in and of its own. And it's hard from what you saw against the Clippers and not question to see a top 5 player. Because, he was going toe-to-toe with Kawhi and Paul George. And everything that the Clippers threw at him, he was teeing them up. And Kawhi and Paul George, they've been, Kawhi Leonard is a multiple-time defensive player of the year. Paul George has been on multiple all-defensive teams. So these aren't just 2 regular players. So I just think the question we really need to start to ask, 2 questions. 1, is he a top 5 player right now? And 2, if he continues like this, if he continues this ascension, can he or will he be considered the greatest foreign player of all time? Now, I know that's a very tough question when you have players like Dirk Nowitzki, when you have players like Steve Nash, when you have players like Akeem Olajuwon, those are tough questions. However, I think I would say that Luka is already better than Manu Ginobili. I think he's already better than Tony Parker. I think he's already better than a lot of foreign players that we've seen. So to me, it's like, all right, now you're really, and he's so young, but he's knocking the doors with the Hakeems and the Dirks. So and to have that and to be able to have that conversation this early, yeah, man, that's Luka's incredible, bro. I just wanted to shout him out. That's kind of what I wanted to do. I just wanted to shout out to Luka, man. Shouts out to Luka. Let's move on. So we're gonna move on to football a little bit. Or Aaron Rodgers did not report to minicamp for the Packers, and this really shouldn't be a. This isn't really surprising anybody. We knew what's been going on this entire offseason with Aaron Rodgers ever since dating back to the draft, coming out and saying he doesn't plan on returning to the team. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, he was upset with how the Jordan Love draft went done. He's been upset with the lack of talent that's been put around him outside of like Devonta Adams and stuff. So we knew that. And we're really about to see. All right, so all off season we've been hearing that both sides are staying packed. Both sides are staying firm in what they believe. Both sides are not going to move. We're really going to see. This is very important for both sides. I think in order you can't say what you said, do what you do, not show up for OTAs, not show up for minicamp, and then come back and say, all right, we cool. Like I don't see Aaron Rodgers doing that, and I don't think you can do that because at that point you've just been losing money for no reason. Like no, you've been losing money, and I don't really see him as the type of person to just be losing money for no reason. So no. Now this point right here is we're really going to see what the Green Bay Packers are made of. Because they can do one of two things. They can either start finding him now or they can excuse his absence. If they start finding him now, to me that is the bridge is completely burnt and crisp, like the torched. Because it's like, all right, I'm upset with you because you haven't done enough to help me. And now, instead of helping me, you're going to find me. Yeah, nah, I'm done. And you're done. Now, if you excuse it, now this could help. Aaron Rodgers not being out could help the Packers a lot. I mean, last year there was no OTAs, there was no preseason. Tom Brady, oldest quarterback in the league, won a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers, one of the older quarterbacks, won the MVP. So it would help that if Aaron Rodgers gets some time off, this, that, and the third, and come back maybe. I don't know. Come back maybe before game one. If he does come back, this could help. Not to mention, there's going to be a mini preseason, I guess. So you want to see what Jordan Love, even though a lot of reports are saying Jordan Love is nowhere close to being ready, which is unfortunate. But yeah, so this can help them. But we really need to see what we're really going to see. How this relationship goes between Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay. Is Green Bay going to, if they start finding him, if they start finding Aaron Rodgers, I don't believe we will ever see Aaron Rodgers in a Green Bay Packers jersey again. I honestly don't think so. If they, I just don't see it. So this is now it's not a huge deal that Aaron Rodgers hasn't reported to minicamp if they don't start finding him. If they do start finding him, yeah, it's a huge deal. If the team excuses it, then really start to see towards the end of or in the middle to the end of preseason, then we'll start to see, all right, this is bigger than, we'll see. So that's just that. And lastly, on Sunday, Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul fought. I'm not really gonna. I mean, I talked to Eric Lyons of the Electric Podcast a couple episodes ago. Was this good for boxing? There was no knockout. There was no loser. It was an exhibition. I mean, it was, it was a fight. It was a fight. And one thing what I'll finish is this. A lot of people, I heard a lot of people saying that this tarnishes Floyd Mayweather's legacy because he didn't knock out a YouTuber in Logan Paul. First and foremost, I don't know if you saw the fight, but Logan Paul is huge compared to Floyd Mayweather. That's the reason why weight classes were invented, because Logan Paul is leaps and bounds taller and bigger than Floyd Mayweather. But when I hear people say Floyd Mayweather's legacy was tarnished, I'm confused because how did he build his legacy? The right now legacy is arguably one of the best boxers ever, but how did he build he built his legacy on being the undisputed greatest defensive boxer ever. He built his legacy on fighting being strategic on who and when he fight to them, and his business acumen has been, is second to none in the boxing world. So it's like, how he landed more punches than Logan Paul. He got hit less than Logan Paul, and he made, I think, like 10 million before the fight even started. So it's like plus 50% of the pay-per-views, I believe. So it's like, I don't understand how you're saying that his legacy was tarnished. No, it wasn't. Like, that is like, I don't get it. I don't get it. But hey, congratulations to Logan Paul, and shouts out to Logan Paul too for winning. I mean, not winning. What am I talking about? Shouts out to Logan Paul for surviving and being a YouTuber, being able to go up toe to toe against Floyd Mayweather. I'm not saying you won, because he didn't win. Neither did Floyd. There was no winners. But if there was going to be a winner, I don't think he won. But he didn't get knocked out, and he put his mind to something. He trained hard as hell, and he survived. So shouts out to Floyd, shouts out to Logan Paul, and shouts out to Showtime. So, hey, kaboom. But there you have it. That has been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate all the listeners, appreciate all the fans, appreciate all the supporters. You guys definitely mean a lot to me. Like it's still, I'm a pretty humble person, and it's crazy to me when I get random messages, or on my everyday life, people come to me and say, "Hey man, your content's getting better," or "I just stumbled across your podcast. It's really good," or I saw you on YouTube and the videos look really good. I appreciate that, man. I put a lot of work into this, and I still love it. I still love it, and I appreciate all the help and support that I get along the way. So I appreciate you guys, and I love you guys, man. If you're new here, new to the podcast, new to the YouTube, please subscribe. Please subscribe. It definitely mean a lot. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. So if you can, please play your part and subscribe. The link is in the description below. And it would definitely mean a lot. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, merch, any type, whether it's hoodies, long sleeves, sweaters, joggers, the link is in the description below. I got a lot of designs, a lot of different colors. Just click on the shirt and you can change the color. It definitely means, hey, get your Unpopular Podcast merch. And yeah, man. Again, I appreciate y'all. Love you guys. And until next time, much love.